السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم إخواني وأخواتي حضوركم في هذه المحاضرة التي تبث مباشرة. فأهلا وسهلا فيكم جميعا، وبصراحة يعني أنا مدهشني حضوركم ومدهشني تفاعلكم. الله يعطيكم العافية جميعا. في البداية أنا حاب أني أول شيء بمناسبة اليوم الوطني إني أهنيكم بمناسبة اليوم الوطني، وأقول لكم كل عام ووطننا الغالي بألف خير وسلامة إن شاء الله، والله يحفظ علينا الأمن والأمان دائما وأبدا. طبعا في البداية أولا أيضا أريد أن أشكر منصة المبادرة الرقمية، مبادرة العطاء الرقمية، على فتح الفرصة لي وإعطائي الفرصة في إلقاء المحاضرة التطوعية معكم الليلة إن شاء الله. وبإذن الله تعالى راح ناخذ من وقتكم يعني حوالي ساعة ونص، راح نتكلم فيها عن مجموعة من المحاور الأساسية على عنوان data stalking are you listening. فبسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في بداية الموضوع حيكون المحاضرة باللغة الإنجليزية بإذن الله تعالى. So the topic is for today is data stalking. Are you listening? And in today's topic, we are going to talk about what is data analytics and how is data analytics being used in the industry. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I am Wasim Tabba. I have a bachelor degrees in quantitative methods from King Saud University, and I also have a certificate in business and predictive analysis from nano degree program at Udacity. And I have some other certificates related to the governance and architecture as well. Now let's talk about today's agenda. At first, we are going to talk about the latest industry trends related to data analytics. Then after that, we are going to talk about efficient data management. Then after that, we would like to take a look on the data analytics overview and the different type of analytics. Then we are going to talk about how to generate good data visualization. Then finally, we would look at a good case study on data analytics in COVID-19 scenario. So now let's get into the first topic, which is industry trends related to data and analytics. So even before we get into the current scenario, let's take a step back and look at a brief history about the data analytics. It all started during the 1970 when the basic governance principles were defined to manage database. This gave a breadth to RDBMS, the Rational Database Management System. This is actually the same concept which also governs the different kind of database that we have today. Also, during the same period, we had data warehouse and data mining concepts defined. Post that, we have the second generation from 2000 till 2010. Here there was a huge jump in the amount of data generated due to the rise of internet and HTTP based web traffic. Most of this time, we have generation 3, which is listed from 2010 to current time, in which we saw the advancement of mobile devices and social media activities. You can see here all of these generated a huge amount of data. We also had sensor-based devices, which is used into IoT application. Most of that, we come to the current scenario, which we call it as generation 4, which is data analytics, big data, and Internet of Things. These are some of emerging trends of today. Now, let's talk about the current industry trends. I will play a video here. Will give you a very good summary about the latest trend about this topic. Let me turn on the movie.
cloud has brought the ability for us to communicate better, faster, and more efficiently. Our rate of progress is only going to increase when everything is connected.
Most often, communications today are hub and spoke systems like you see in the cellular phone networks, but the future lies in the world of mesh. A mesh network is where any node or any asset in a communications infrastructure communicates on behalf of itself and on behalf of others, propagating data from point A to point C.
Mesh networks is really describing people can be added on to that network and subtracted from that network in a seamless way. Quantum computing is a different way of doing things.
The fact that they're phenomenally fast allows them to look at millions of problems as opposed to one or two problems, being able to compute not only forwards but backwards.
As quantum computing takes off more, we're starting to understand big data algorithmic interactions. Those are providing insights and new patterns of things that we did not see before.
As soon as we begin to adapt and think in that terms, we'll explode in terms of the utilization and leverage of it.
Big data might help us understand where will the rains be, where won't the rains be. Can we be preemptive and say, there's going to be less rain over here. We may want to optimize our plantings in a different sector from another sector, or change our crop patterns.
One of the topics that comes up often is the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things is different than the regular Internet in that it invokes not just human beings communicating with each other, but also machines with sensors and other devices communicating with similar sensors and the like.
This idea of pervasive sensing, that's something that's very near term, that's on the horizon, where there's sensing from everything, and we can access that information anytime we want.
Doctors will be able to plug in with us and monitor our vital statistics on a real-time basis. The value is in this correlation across many domains and how one influences the other.
Wherever you go, you can get data now, and that data is worldwide.
In the year 2000, there was about 800,000 petabytes of data. Now we are supposedly exposed to 5 exabytes of data every 2 days. The managing of this data is certainly one of the challenges.
And so this is the tension that we face, that the increasing prevalence of data both offers us fascinating capabilities and services that really enrich our lives, but equally they pose risks to privacy, to inaccuracy if the wrong data becomes globally available instantly.
And that will be where I think where Lockheed Martin can supply some of its greatest assets in information processing and technology to solve that problem.
Okay, so now let's focus on the key data trends in telecom industry. The key data trends in the telecom industry are big data, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence, marketing analytics, and network analytics. So in the coming slides, we would go about each of these trends and how it's impacting the overall industry. Now, let's look at the first trend, which is a big data. Now, what is a big data and how it is used in the industry? Let's look at this video to understand all about big data and its application to the telecom industry.
So we constantly produce a lot of data, for example, via social media, public transport, and GPS. But it goes way beyond that. Daily, we upload 55 million pictures, 340 million tweets, and 1 billion documents. In total, we produce 2.5 quintillion bytes a day. That's a lot of zeros. It's ridiculous. We call this big data. But what's actually more important is what you can do with it. To process big data, you don't need huge computers. People work with the cloud, an endless network of normal servers, and powerful algorithms. This way, they can analyze over 1 million pieces of data in minutes. And the result? Well, for example, video streaming website Netflix analyzed the big data of their viewers, like popular shows and watching patterns. This way, they produced a successful series with the perfect combination of actors, directors, and storyline. Right now, the big data of traffic is being analyzed to develop a car that can drive completely accident-free all by itself. And in the future, we can even use the big data of DNA to determine the perfect treatment. This way, curing genetic diseases like cancer would become much easier. And that's just the start.
So now let us look at what is application of big data is in the telecom industry. So as you would see in this slide, there are different focus areas like customer experience, network optimization, operations analysis, and data monetization. Data can be applied to each of these areas, and we can generate a lot of good benefits from the application of big data here. So we can probably speak about a couple of these areas now. So first of all, let's speak about target marketing. What's target marketing? Now we can use big data to generate a number of insights into the different customer segments. For example, we can segment customer by geographical location and by age profile. And then we can generate marketing campaigns which are targeted to be a particular customer segment. This will help us to generate specific offering, and this will help us to increase revenue and sales. This is called target marketing. Now let's look at churn analysis. For example, in the telecom companies, there is always a churn, the chance that a number of customers leave their services and migrate to some other telecom company. This is called churn. And telecom companies have a lot of concern related to churn. Now, using big data, we can predict what kind of customers would churn and when a particular customer is going to churn. This is done by understanding the behavior of the customer, the billing and payment patterns, and any similar evidence or signs. If we can understand these factors, we can advise offering for customer retention. This is very helpful. So they will retain. It will be very helpful, and they will also have a many different application where big data can help telecom companies to enhance the customer experience. Now let's look at the second trend, which is artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. So what's the artificial intelligence? I'm sure many of you have heard about this concept. So let us look at this video to understand all about artificial intelligence and Internet of Things.
Across London, people are becoming more concerned and worried about air quality. People are taking a much keener interest in the level of pollution near their home and where they live. We need to find new solutions and new ways of doing things so that the city is sustainable. And obviously that links through to our planning process.
Thousands of people die prematurely in our city every year as a direct consequence of our air. Air pollution and climate change transcend national borders and city boundaries. And the only way to respond to these global problems is with global solutions. The air quality in London is poor. It's leading to thousands of premature deaths. And we're going to work with children, with their parents, with governors and teachers and councils and others to improve the quality of air in London.
Working together with our partners from Greenwich, the GSMA is using mobile, IoT and big data technologies to make a real difference of citizens' experience of air quality in the borough.
We might have hundreds of IoT sensors like this, and they're each generating thousands of readings each and every day. But we end up with massive amounts of data.
Data is all well and good, but it's the difference that it makes to people's lives that's the most important thing. We're working to make sure that we understand what that data says, what we can do further to take the particulates and the issue away, fundamentally encourage schools and families to do things differently so that exposure to dangerous pollutants is reduced.
We want to get a better idea of how conditions vary across Greenwich, as experienced by the citizens travelling through the borough. This is where smaller, mobile-enabled air quality equipment plays a critical role. These air quality monitors can be taken virtually anywhere in the borough, in parks, on major roads and bicycle lanes. Because they take measurements in real time, we can understand how conditions vary in different locations all through the day. We're also obtaining air quality data from satellites and open government sources, and combining it with context data, such as weather and the built environment. The mobile industry plays a key role in connecting these IoT sensors and bringing together these different sources of data.
With so much data being generated and so much other data to be analysed as well, conventional analytics techniques don't work. And this is where machine learning and big data are vitally important. What we're doing is to look at that IoT sensor data along with traffic and weather data in order to better predict and understand air quality. Machine learning uses advanced computational techniques to find patterns in data, and then we can use this in order to predict what the air quality will be in the future. Our aim is to build advanced analytical methods that allow us to understand air quality at a very local level and to understand how air quality changes through the day.
Our objective is to understand what factors influence air quality and create a baseline against which interventions such as changing traffic patterns, green spaces and building patterns can be tracked.
We hope that machine learning can help us understand when air quality is becoming poor so that we can then alert people and reduce their risk.
It's great for us to be working with the GSMA and mobile industries because it's working together. It's going to provide that information to residents and families that will enable them to take the decisions they want to about their lives.
Okay. Actually, I get some notification that the sounds was not really clear for the video. Anyhow, I moved my mic away from my face, so maybe there's some breathing sounds. Anyway, I will make sure the next video I will make it away from my face. Thank you for the notifying me. Thank you. Okay, so yes, so with this we come to the next question about what is helping the growth of Internet of Things. So now there are various factors which are helping the growth of Internet of Things. The first and foremost is reducing cost of the devices or sensors which are used in Internet of Things. Then we also have other factors like decreasing per unit cost of data. So more money being invested into this area and arrival of big data and the cloud. So all of these factors are helping in the growth of Internet of Things. So now let's look at how data analytics is helping Internet of Things. Data analytics has a number of different areas like predictive analytics, prospective analytics, which is help us to predict what is going to happen and how we should react to different situations. This is helping Internet of Things a lot from data and analytics perspective. In this slide, let's look at what we are or what are the applications of artificial intelligence. So here we're using artificial intelligence. We can train our servers to recognize patterns in pictures, and then if you show the server some random pictures, it will be able to recognize what object that is. Is it a car or is it a bus or etc. And artificial intelligence can also help in speaking. So AI, artificial intelligence, can convert the text type in a Word document and generate into a voice so that you don't need to read the entire text. Also, it can do the other way around as well. So it can listen to the speech and convert it to the text format as well. So similarly, there are other applications like we can use artificial intelligence for robotics and advanced applications. So there are a number of uses of artificial intelligence, and it's widely being used currently. Over the coming days, the adoption of this technology in the current world is going to increase too much. Okay, so that brings us to our next trend here, which is the cloud computing. So what are the different ways of cloud computing? So we can have cloud offered an infrastructure as a service, and we can also have a platform as a service, and also software as a service. So we can use different modes, and we can generate a lot of good insights using cloud. So now let's see here the evolution of cloud computing. The start of 1970 involved desktop computers and microchips. All of that was hosted within the premises, and there were no cloud application as such. Over the years, we had more uses of computers, and roughly around 2003, we have a cloud-based computing coming up. And for example, Amazon, they launched its first cloud platform in 2003, and then followed by Google and also by Microsoft. Nowadays, more and more organizations are using their services via cloud, and in the coming days, we are expecting what we are expecting is the total usage of a cloud is going to be increased a lot. So there would be a better storage and more amount of storage. So this will be giving a good credit to cloud. So thanks cloud to have we really here we can see that it would be better storage and more amount of storage using cloud computing as a trend. With this, we come to our fourth trend, which is network analytics. So now network analytics is very specific to the telecom industry. Here we take data from the network, from various devices in the network, and we generate insights out of the data. Using these insights, we can do a number of different activities, and that would help us to run an operation much better. There are a number of advantages of network analytics. For example, first and foremost things is gaining visibility to the performance and behavior of data center. Here we can determine how the assets are performing and how the infrastructure is performing. So we can also take some proactive steps so that we can maintain our data center infrastructure in a perfect shape. Then, using network analysis, we can also ensure network reliability and reduce loss in services. And here, using network analytics, we can also do a lot of demand and capacity planning. We can understand how much of infrastructure capacity we need in the coming days, so that we are able to run our operation more smoothly. So here, these are some of the activities that we can do using the network analytics. Now, there are a number of major players which are currently offering network analytics solutions. Some of them are Oracle Corporation, SAP, and IBM. We can say here the market itself is fragmented, and there is no single domain player. Because of this, there is an opportunity of new players to gain market share here. That was about network analytics trend. And here we can say finally we come to our last trend, which is marketing analytics. As a network analytics was something which related to the back end, we have here marketing analytics, which is related also to the front end, which is customer. So in the marketing analytics, we gather a lot of data related to the customer behavior and buying behavior, usage pattern, etc. And we can generate a number of insights that would help us to take some good data back decision. There are many segments of marketing analytics. For example, customer experience, sales and marketing management, risk and compliance management. All of these areas are really growing at very good growth of over 12 to 15%. Now we can also look at some of the typical business use cases related to marketing analytics. So first, the customer segmentation and the profiling. So this is also this is all about creating individual segments about the customer on the basis of the geographical profile or use age profile. Using this, we can create different marketing plan for different segments. This will help us to improve our revenue and enhance our customer experience for sure. Then we can also look at cross-selling and upselling of products and also services. So since we have a large volume of customer data, we can use it to understand the customer preferences and generate offerings for customers. This can also increase our sales through cross-selling of products. So the global size of marketing analytics market was valued at $3.5 billion in 2018. And it is projected to reach to $9.89 billion by 2026. That is an average growth rate of close to 14%, and that is really amazing. In summary, what I would like to say here is that marketing analytics is another field which is rising at a very fast rate. It would definitely be a trend that will impact the telecom industry a lot. That brings us to the end of our first section, and which is industry trend related to the data analytics. So if I can do some summarize here, we started by understanding a brief history of data analytics. Then we looked at the trend related to artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Then we looked at some of the areas which are specific to the telecom industry, like network analytics. And finally, we looked at marketing analytics as a trend. What I would like to say here is that the future of data analytics is very bright. There is going to be a huge amount of investment in this area. Also, companies and organizations would be mostly data-driven, and their usage of data would increase in the coming days. And now we would move to the next section, which is related to the efficient data management and data-driven enterprise architecture. So the first step towards efficient data management is understanding the entire data lifecycle. Now, data goes through the following steps in its lifecycle. At first, data recorded from the current sources. Then there is a stage of data gathering or acquisition, where data is collected. Then data is organized into a into a meaningful format, and after that, after this, we perform data analytics, and finally, we undergo a stage of data reporting, where we use tools like visualization to depict the data. Now, in each of the stages of data lifecycle, we should make sure that data should have some key characteristics. So the first thing is data accuracy. So data should be accurate, and it should be gathered accurately. There should not be any error in the data gathered. Then second is consistency. Data should be consistent throughout its life cycle, and it should not change from its point of source to its point of reporting. Third is the uniqueness. So the data should be unique, and there should be no duplicate rows or multiple instances of the same data. Fourth, data should remain consistent with the management roles. And fifth is availability. So data should be available whenever the user needs to access it. And it also should take into account data privacy objectives. Finally, also we have also here data should be traceable. So there should be always a way to trace the recording and changes of the data. So if we understand the data lifecycle, and if data characteristics are maintained in this life cycle, we would be more able to efficiently manage the data in the enterprise. Now let's look at the next topic in efficient data management, which is data ownership. In data ownership here, we will talk about what we need to consider two kinds of data. So one is the data which is owned by the enterprise organization, and second is the data which is owned by any third party. Now, as a data owner, we need to take care of certain key aspects while we are dealing with each kind of data. In the case of owned data, we should make sure that we manage the data efficiently within the area, which is include maintaining a data dictionary and how the data is being used. Also, we should make sure that we have correct processes for implementing and maintaining the data from its origin to its end state. So when it comes to third-party data, the data owner here should ensure the following. First, the data has been received from third parties, just as legal practices or from other departments as error-free. All corrections or changes to the data should be done at the source of origin. Then the data should be used correctly, and finally access to the data is restricted. So if we take care of these aspects, then we would be able to manage our data properly. And also we have to tight control on the ownership of the data as well. Now, let's look at some standards here, which are applicable for various stages of data management. The first one is naming convention. So data should have a proper naming convention. Then the second one is the data acquisition. Here, data should have a defined standard because we would like to ensure that data integrity is maintained, and also that the data is complete and error-free. Third, data classification. So we should make sure that the processes followed in the review and the classification of data should be follow standard convention. Fourth, we have data validation. So we should make sure that the data has validated, and for that we would require some standards here. Then we will talk about fifth, which should be also have data cleansing. So data cleansing is supposed to have a standards and parameters which define what kind of activities we need to do for data cleansing. Finally, we should also manage issues log, which should contain all kinds of issues and corrective actions that are required in case of data management. So if we follow these standards, we will be able to manage our data much more efficiently in the organization. Data governance. So now let's come to the next topic in efficient data governance and data management, which is data governance. So what is the definition of data governance? Data governance is the practice of identification or identifying important data across the organization and ensuring that it's of high quality and value to the business. There are various activities that we undergo in the case of data governance. So here I have tried to list some of the few common areas covered by data governance policies. First of them is data quality. So as a governance function, we need to ensure that the data is correct and the data is consistent. Second, the data availability. So as a data governance, we need to ensure that the data is available and it's easy to be consumed by the business function. Third is data usability. So here the governance function need to make sure that the data is properly structured, documented, and labeled. Also, data can be easily searched and is compatible with tools used by the business users. Also, here as a governance function, we should also make sure that data integrity is maintained, and data should not change its characteristics while it moves from one life cycle stage to the other life cycle. Finally, data security. So we need to make sure that data is safeguarded and the information is secured and data is safe from any kind of cyber attack. So with this, we have covered the principle and the practices on how to manage data efficiently. So let's say here, just to summarize, to start, we should be fully aware of the entire data lifecycle. What are the stages that data goes in its life cycle? then data should be maintained at its life cycle stages, and it should be not lose its characteristic. Second point, we discuss as a data ownership. We should have some responsibilities so that as an owner, we are working with a good, efficient data. Finally, we should have some standards at each stage of the life cycle. Now let's look at a couple of more slides on enterprise architecture, and then finally we will club these two concepts. One is data and the second is enterprise architecture, and see how each of them would come together to form a unique concept of data-driven enterprise architecture. So enterprise architecture consists of 4 domains: business, then the data, then the application, and then the technology. These are the domain which are in any organization. Enterprise architecture tries to join up these different domains with detailed architectures. So what it tries to create is linkage between the different domain. Also, it tries to maintain information flow between the different domain, from business to data, from data to technology, and vice versa, and tries to have a complete visibility. Now let's look at what are the key questions or key objectives which an enterprise architecture can help to answer here. So now there are different kind of person in the organization. One is the business person, which is more interested into sales and revenue generation. Then there is a staff who would need to know about the current day-to-day operations. And then there is a set of managers who are running the program within the organization. So now as a business person, would typically like to know how can I innovate and how they can come up with a new innovative offering or a new kind of strategy. And this will help them to generate more sales, more revenue, and acquire new customers. They would also like to know about how they can save cost and what are the risks involved. Then, if you come to the staff would be more interested in their current day-to-day operations. So they would like to know how do they change their activities. If things are not changing, what action should they take? Then finally, the managers would like to know what are the portfolio of activities that they are handling, and are these aligned to overall strategy and goal of the organization? So different people in the organization have different kind of acquisition. And what we are trying to say here is, since enterprise architecture has end-to-end visibility, we will be able to answer all these kind of questions. So now we come to the question, what value does enterprise architecture bring? So as we briefly saw earlier, there's a lot of value which enterprise architecture can bring. The first is connecting business with IT. Second, standardize the processes and ways of doing things so they can provide common principle and language across business and IT. And that would also help in speeding up operations and improving efficiency. Third, enterprise architecture can guide changes so that data and systems across business areas speak the same kind of language, and they are able to communicate and work along with each other more efficiently. Fourth, enterprise architecture can help in innovation, and enterprise architecture can come up with new innovative ways of doing things, like digital transformation or analytics. Fifth, reducing costs. So enterprise architecture has an end-to-end visibility in business area, so they can certainly help to reducing costs by understanding where are the investment, where are there, and any duplication that can be reduced, and etc. So enterprise architecture can also help to reduce the time to market using visibility and best practices. So as we see, as we have seen, there are so many different benefits that EA can bring. So now let's look at data-driven enterprise architecture. So what is data-driven enterprise architecture? This practice comes from how can we leverage data to transform the traditional enterprise architecture practices. So currently, as we know, there are a huge volume of data created and collected within the organization. And so it's very important for the organization to store and extract the data and keep it in the meaningful format. Then we should create insights and information that are coming out of this data, which we can use to improve our operations and practices. So that is what we call as a data-driven enterprise architecture. So the first step here is C-level, executive commitment, and also senior leadership commitment towards data-driven enterprise architecture. Then, as we know, a large amount of data is created by various methods, including enterprise applications, email, chat, text, documents. The focus here is to store all those data in central repository, like a SharePoint, for example, or email or server. And then we should also make use of all the data management principle that we learned in the previous slides. The next step is to have some kind of analytics and data mining practices. So we can use some tools which are available in the market, and we can also apply some data management principle. And this would help us to give some good insights, and we would be also be able to populate executive dashboards and reports. So it would help us in terms of decision making and would be able to drive improvement more efficiently across the organization. So this is a short summary about data-driven enterprise architecture and how it can help the organization. Finally, we come to the last section of this topic, which is advantage of data-driven. There are several advantages of data-driven enterprise architecture. First of all, this helps in reduction of subjection, or it helps in reduction of subjectivity in architecture designs. What I mean here is all our designs are based on data, and it's not based on individual preference of experience. So we are fully using the data and making decisions based on the data. Second, since this is data-driven, it helps accurate reflection on the business within the technology architecture. Then we can find increased efficiency and improve cost reduction, as well as other factors like enhanced customer experience as well. Finally, this would help us to develop a competitive advantage because we will be able to use data across the organization. So in summary here, what I would like to say, data is very important, and the current world, most of the organization are migration from simple enterprise architecture to data-driven as enterprise architecture. So with this, we can now move to the next section in the topic, which is data analytics overview. So now let's look at the data analytics. So what are the benefits of data analytics? Data analytics can give business the ability to get information quickly and create customer insights faster, and also prevent fraud. So there are different benefits of data analytics. Almost 7 out of 10 leaders believe that analytics will help prevent security incidents, and they are most likely to outperform their competition. Now, what are the needs for an analytics solution in the organization? As is shown here in this slide, we know that data increasing at very fast rate. The volumes are rising, and most of this data is unstructured and complex. So in order to get some insight from this data, we need to have ways to analyze the data and come up with insights and inputs for sound business decision. Data analytics help us to achieve these objectives. So let's try to understand what is the big data analytics and what are the various types of data analytics. Let's look at this video on big data analytics.
% of the data available in the world today has been created over the last 2 years. We find ourselves in the age of big data, but what does this mean exactly? Big data analytics is the study of huge amounts of stored data in order to extract behavior patterns. These data are characterized by the high speed they are being generated with, the huge volume they represent, the immense variety of typologies they encompass, and the degree of veracity they own. More than 2.5 trillion bytes of information are generated every day through our smartphones, tablets, GPS devices, sensors spread all over our cities, bank cards. What can be done with all this information? This is where big data analytics comes into play, a combination of high technology systems and mathematics, which together are capable of analyzing all that information and providing it with a meaning of great value for companies or governments. There are 4 types of big data analytics. The descriptive one explains what happened in the past based on data presented through graphics or reports, but not why or what will happen in the future. The diagnostic one, closely linked to the previous type, seeks to understand the reasons why any given event took place in the past. The predictive one, the most useful for companies, goes through data in order to predict what could happen. And finally, the prescriptive one, an evolution of the preceding approach based on automation processing or A/B testing. This system, besides analyzing and predicting data, advises on how to proceed according to them by recommending, for example, the best location on your site to place a banner, or the most convenient gas station along your way if you want to avoid traffic. Big data analytics helps companies or public administrations to understand their users better, find previously unnoticeable opportunities, provide a better service, and even mitigate fraud. The revolution of datafication is just beginning.
Okay, so now let's look at the common data analytics use cases for the telecom industry. So within telecom, as we see here in this picture, there are a number of different initiatives that we can run. So for example, there's a customer management research and analysis, and there's a campaign management, there's a fraud analytics, and there are all other different initiatives we can run. So we can talk about few of them. So let's pick customer management. So in the customer management, we use analytics solution to understand the needs and the preferences of the customer. Also, it helps us to understand how many customers we have gained or lost. It can also help us give some good insights into the customer satisfaction index. So using these different parameters, we can take some very sound decision on improving our customer management area. Similarly, if you look at campaign management, so a campaign management is an area where we can run some good campaign or promotion activities for a customer segment. So we can also look at the historical campaigns and campaign tracking. So we can also measure the effectiveness of our campaigns. So we can also look at the customer service management, which is all about how to solve customers' complaints and problems in a faster manner. So using data analytics, we can understand what are the most reported customers issues and complaints, and how the service team is dealing with these kind of issues, and how we can use our past experience to do a better job for the customer. So as we can see here, there are a number of different areas where we can use data analytics, and this would help us to improve our operations and also give a better customer experience as well. Now let's look at what are the difference type of data analytics. So as we see here in this diagram, there are various kinds of data analytics. First, the first one is descriptive, which help us to determine what happened. So we take some past data and current data, and we try to create patterns from it. This will help us to describe the current scenario and what is happening. Then the diagnostic analysis. Here we try to get into the root causes of specific problems. We try to understand the reason why particular activity is occurring. For example, if we understand that our sales are dropping or our customer experience is going down, so this kind of analytics would try to break that problem into simpler groups, so that we can understand the root of the causes of the problem. Then, if you look at predictive analytics, so this is a bit more advanced, where we try to predict based on the algorithms about what would happen in the future. So I can answer a question like, for example, what are customers likely to do in the future, or what will the market look like in the future? Then finally we have the perspective analytics, which actually helps the organization to make a good strategy and actions. It helps us to decide on what should be the correct action or the correct strategy and the roadmap for the future actions in the organization for sure. So that is what is the perspective data analytics would like to answer. So as we see here, there are various types of data analytics, right from simple to complex. And each of these data analytics help us to answer different kind of questions, which is respect to an organization. Excellent. So let's look at the models and use cases, and when we can use them for different type of data analytics. So let's look at descriptive analytics. In the case of descriptive analytics, we can have information dashboard and performance stats. So when to use them, this can only be used when the goal is to summarize results for all businesses, or to get insights from the data. And also we have some limitation here. So it's just describes the current scenario, and it would not help to answer questions related to the future anymore. Now about diagnostic analytics. There are a number of use cases that are available. For example, data mining or query tools or modeling statistics that would help us to come up with insights and patterns out of the data. So when we can use them? We can use them to find the root causes behind the particular problems or why it happens. So also, this would have some limitation as well. It would not help us to guide our future decision, but it would help us to resolve a problem related to our current issues. So as you see here, we would also have similar kind of use cases for predictive analytics and perspective analytics, and then there are some guidance in terms of when we can use them. So with this understanding, let's look at some of the common business use cases in data analytics. So the first one that we would look at here is the Amazon use cases. This video will let us know how Amazon use analytics to improve its sales and customer experience. Okay, so now let's us look at some of other use cases. So the first case study here related to churn prediction. So this is very important area. This is a very important area for telecom for sure, operative globally, which is churn. There are people who would move from one operator to the other operator very quickly because of bad customer experience or similar reasons. This is called churn. So analytics can help us, specifically the operator, to determine when a particular customer is going to churn. And the operator can actually build strategies or come up with a new offering to retain the customer. Now, the first step in this process is to build a survival analysis model. So this is this analysis model is built to predict the time when a customer may churn. So we already have the data related to the customer billing and customer feedback. Using this kind of data, we can predict whether a customer is about to churn. For example, if we have really bad feedback from a customer over social media channels, or if the customer is not paying their bills for a long time, there can be cases that customer is about to churn. So once we understand that the customer can churn, we can devise corrective retention steps that help to retain the customers back. So we can actually retain more number of customers, improve our customer experience, and also revenues. Yes. Now let's look at the second case study, which is about fraud detection. As we know currently, we have a number of fraud activities going around between organizations. So the ability to detect fraud and to prevent fraud is one of the very core objectives. Data analytics can help here to detect and reduce fraud. So how it can be done? A predictive analytics model can be built using the various data that we have and the network event data that is coming from the network devices, the billing data coming from the billing system, and the customer CRM data as well. So using this, we can compare what is the customer usage and what is the rating and charging for a particular type of usage. So then we can see what are the bills being generated and how much charges are put for telecom operator. So if you compare all these different kind of data, we can come up with identification if there is a wrong charging happens, or if there is some kind of fraud happening as well. So here we can identify factors which is lead the telecom fraud and try to take correct action to prevent fraud and increase brand loyalty as well. Finally, we come to the third case study here, which is related to the marketing mix modeling. Here we are trying to calculate the return on investment for various marketing activities. And also, we are trying to understand the customer behavior with respect to different type of marketing activities as well. So first thing, we need to build a linear regression model, which shows the impact of various marketing activities on sales. Then we can also look at the effectiveness of marketing campaign using scenarios. So by this, we can reduce our overall ad and promotion spend. So we can also invest our efforts and money in the channels which is give us better return on investment. So here in summary, what I would like here to say that we can run more efficient marketing and campaign activities, and this would also help the organization to improve its revenue. So with this, we come to the end of this section on data analysis overview. Now let's look at the next section for today, which is data visualization overview. So why is data visualization essential for informed decision making? Data is only as good as the user's ability to understand and communicate. So even if we have very good analytics being performed, if it's not easily understandable by people, we are not very successful in data analytics practices. So as we see here, the entire cycle of data analytics start with managing the data. Then next step is performing analytics. So we can have various different kind of analytics like predictive, prospective, or descriptive analytics, which can be performed on the data. Then comes to the next step, which is data visualization, which means converting the data into a more easy and user-friendly format. There are various tools available in the market, by the way, that can help us to do a very nice data visualization. So this brings us to the question, why should we care about data visualization? As I said, when we are working with the data, we are working with numbers and letters in data tables. When we are storing and noting them using a computer, then this is very easy. But once we are using them to present into human beings, they are not very well suited, and it always doesn't bring a very good insights generation. So in order to understand this, let's run this exercise in the next slide, which with which we will be able to understand the point that I'm trying to explain here. So let's look at this picture, for example. This picture in front of you, try to count how many times the number 5 appears in the table below. I will give you around 10 seconds. Let's see how many of you can count the number 5 in this picture. Now let's look at the different at a different way to this exercise. Now it's the same picture that I showed you in the previous slide. Now let's try to do that exercise once again. Can you count the number 5 in this picture? I will pause for a moment and see. I am pretty sure most of you might have got your answers right this time, and it has been much easier and much accurate this time, right? So that is what is impact of data visualization. So in the current slide, with the proper visualization, we can get our insights, which is we can make some of our informed decision. That is why as I said, data visualization is very, very important. It's kind of area which is quite often overlooked, but I would say we should be very careful, and we should give it an equal importance so that we can take it informed. We can take it informed decision about data. Now let's look at some of the best practices in terms of data visualization. So what are the different ways to display information? We can display information in a comparison mode. Here we can compare different data sets. Then we can also look at a compositions mode, where we can break the entire data set into smaller data samples. Third way to represent is in distribution format. So for example, we can see how the profit is distributed in various classes of the customer. And finally, we can have a relationship display information. For example, the GDP of countries in relation with the profit that a company generates in that country. So we can see here that there are multiple ways in which a data display happens. So the most common one from here are comparison and composition mode. Now let's look at some data visualization format. So we can have various ways to display information, which is bar charts, line charts, scatter plots. Each one of them is more suited to a particular type of data representation. For example, the bar chart is a great choice for visualizing a quantitative variables independency of a quantitative variables. Also, it's very good to show a particular order of different profit categories for a company. Similarly, the line chart and the scatter plot have its own applications. So let's take the scatter plot, for example. Scatter plot is a great choice for visualizing a quantitative variables independency of another quantitative variables. So again, this kind of chart is a great option to show the correlation between the variables. A typical example is if you plot the customer preferences basis on the age of the customer. This would give you which customer are more suited to which product. So you can use that to generate different strategies for marketing activities. Finally, we come at maps. So there are different colors for displaying quantitative information. So a color-coded display patterns is very good to display certain categories over geographical area on the map. For example, the population of a region on the basis of color mapping. That is also one good way to represent patterns as well. Now, there are some more visual best practices tips. I have listed here some of in this slide, which is, for example, first of all, we should not have too much information in the visualization. We should remove any extra lines, colors, and text from a chart. Secondly, we should not have too many complexity and too much information in a single graph. If there are many information that need to be shown, we can divide the graph of the data into two separate diagrams. Third, if there's only one category of data being represented, then we don't need to put a legend. So as you see, there are various best practices to make our picture easier to understand. So we should certainly use these best practices and tips to create more efficient data visualization. Finally, if you talk about colors, then as a general principle, what should not have more than 6 colors in a particular chart. We should have consistency in the color coding and style, so that our visualization looks simple and also attractive. Also, 7 to 10% of the people are colorblind, as you know. So we should also look at what to do for people who are colorblind. Maybe we can consult an expert to understand how we can create charts which are readable by colorblind people. So these are some of the visual best practices tips. Just remember, less is more. Don't clutter your picture with too much data at one place. And if there is too much information to display, split it into multiple charts, but make your individual charts simple and easy to understand. So that is the general rules for less is more. Finally, we come to the end of this exercise. Now, let's look at the number of tools available in the market, which can be leveraged to present data to our customers. So as shown in the table here, we have data visualization software from Microsoft, which is called Microsoft Power BI. Then there is an Oracle Tableau. There's an Oracle, and also there's a Tableau, and there's SAP and Alteryx. So each one of them have very good data visualization capabilities. So let's take a couple of them and try to see what advantage or what benefits that this kind of software brings to the table. So first of all, let's talk about Tableau. Tableau provides a business intelligence tool to enhance data discovery and is good for all types of companies and business users with a simple drag and drops features. A user is able to easily analyze data and create innovative reports across the company. Now let's look at Alteryx. Alteryx Analytics provide a lot of innovative features like data blending, predictive analytics, spatial analytics, and shared insights. Then the latest version of Analytics allows us for increased ability to work with large data sets. It can integrate with the new predictive visualization tool as well, and it can also help us to share Alteryx workflow on Alteryx server or gallery. All of this can give us great ability to display and present our data to the audience. With this, we come to the end of the section on data visualization. I hope you might have got an understanding why data visualization is so important and why we should focus a lot of attention in creating good visualization. Now we come to the last section for our session today, which is case study related to use of data analytics in the COVID-19 scenario. So let's look here at this case study related to how we can use data analytics in this COVID-19 scenario. COVID-19 is a worst human, economics, and social crisis across the globe. Millions of health professionals are risking their lives daily to fight this pandemic, and also industries and government organizations are working in a remote basis to support their current operations and also to support business. So in this scenario, the role of telecom operators has been much more important. In fact, it has never been as important in the past. So a telecom operator's role in this current scenario is to connect the families and communities, and also in helping various business and educational institutions to run from remote locations. Let's look at the immediate response to the pandemic. So around the world, communication service providers have really responded with a sense of urgency and purpose in this new normal. So the CSP, the communication service provider, is leading the effort for remote working, online learning, and social distancing. So I have just tried to list down some of the category, how telecom operators are helping to support various other organizations and people during this COVID-19 scenario. So the first of all, supporting healthcare and government agency. So telecom operators are equipping the field's hospitals with high-speed connectivity, so that such organization can help communities and communicate with each other quickly, and also get an insight into any kind of movement and interaction between people to track spread of the virus. Secondly, telecom operators are helping in supporting remote working by extending network capacity by 30 to 50%, so that you can have a secure remote working environment, both for business and for educational institution as well. Then, telecom operators are ensuring that there is a continued service to small business and customers, and also to home setups. Finally, also, telecom operators are helping to deliver customers care through implementing remote and virtual agents and helping organizations to run their business smoothly. Now let us look at some short to medium term reaction to market condition that are very necessary to keep our business running. So there is significant pressure on the operation expenses. Business are finding it tough to manage their operating expenses and sales. Now we can use this descriptive analytics to understand the current sales pattern or expenses data and take corrective actions. The organization and telecom operators are trying to limit their capital spend. We can use perspective analytics here. So to prioritize our critical capital expenditure and also align it to our core business objectives, telecom operators are looking at a lot of supply chain optimization and ways of remote working using digital means. And then finally, operators are trying to limit their cash expenses and trying to tighten the revenue and cash management policies. So here we can use analytics to design information dashboards and performance scorecard to track our revenue and cash expenses. In the long term, as a part of that, there are some long-term implications for the new normal. So as I have listed down here in the slide, there is a digital transformation, there is a hybrid cloud IT, and network architecture, cybersecurity. Then finally, become a platform of business is something that organizations are looking forward to. So let's look at each of them one by one. So the first point is digital transformation. So in order to attract customers and run their business, organizations are adopting to digital transformation. They are looking at the concepts like omni-channel, digital experience, and also a lot of digital self-services. So in the absence of face-to-face interactive or interaction and labor shortage, more importance is being given on usage of digital self-services. Then there is much more use of artificial intelligence to support the call center. For example, the call center agents and retail stores. So in the current labor shortage, a lot of organizations are looking at using artificial intelligence and automation to get stuff done. So then the second point here is the hybrid cloud IT and network architecture. So as we know, people are working remotely and there is no co-location possible. In this scenario, there is a renewed sense of urgency of shifting services to the hybrid cloud IT and network. So where individual employees and people can access the information and services over the cloud, rather than having to go to their individual offices to run their operations. The other trend that we are able to see here is that there is a major shift in workload and load balancing and more use of architectural intelligence and machine learning is made into the network. So what it means here is that instead of activity being done by individual employees, there is machine learning and artificial intelligence which is coming into play, reducing the dependency on humans, and there's also a lot of interest into investing funds so that we are able to run in this mode. So and that is one thing that IT companies are trying to do in order to sustain their operations. Then third point here is becoming a platform business. So instead of just being a digital services provider, companies and telcos are reinventing themselves as a platform business. So instead of just running their own services, they are exposing their capabilities as a platform, which can be used by other organizations to run their services on a pay-as-you-go model. So telecom operators are migrating from being a digital services provider to a digital services enabler. So then there are some of infrastructure and enabling assets that can be help us become a platform business. So 5G, for example, is very important in the new normal, provide faster connectivity. This is required by many industries like manufacturing, healthcare, and energy. Those are some of the new concepts which are coming up, and that would actually be very important in the coming days to run our business. So finally, as we had mentioned earlier, cybersecurity will be high on every day's agenda. This is because more and more people are working remotely, businesses are running remotely, educational institutions are interacting remotely as well. So there is a lot of data exchanges which is happening over the network, and so cybersecurity is one of the major concerns. Other point is, since the demand of this area is going up, telecom operators are also looking at providing these services to support their business and customers. So in B2B scenario, customer would use services from telecom operators and enable cybersecurity to protect their business and run smoothly. So these are some of long-term implication for the new normal. So I would like here to summarize. COVID-19 is one of the never seen before scenario, and telecom operators are very important at this time. So because of they are supporting connectivity and helping other organization and business run. So with this, we come to the end of the topic for today. I would like to thank you all for participating in this session. Now we are in the time for questions, and so I will open the house for discussion, and I'm ready to take any question that you may have, and thank you. I'm looking here for your questions, so it's time open now for the questions if you want. If there's any questions, please you can write it here in the comments. إذا في أي أسئلة ممكن تحطوها في مكان التعليق، وإن شاء الله بجاوب على الأسئلة تبعكم. By the way, ممكن أعرض عليكم قنوات التواصل. ممكن من الكنترول يعرض علينا السلايد، أعرض عليكم قنوات التواصل في حال حبيتوا تضعون أي سؤال أو تتواصلون معي في أي سؤال يخص البرزنتيشن أو يخص الداتا بشكل عام. أنا ممكن أعرض عليكم للتواصل. هذا الأكاونت في ممكن الكنترول يحول للسلايد لو سمحت. So هذا السلايد عندي الاكونت في تويتر والاكونت في لينكدين. في حال عندكم اي سؤال او تواصل ممكن تتواصلوا معي عن طريق التويتر او عن طريق اللينكدين. برجع للاسئله على الويب. في سؤال يقول بخصوص تحليل الشبكة. في البداية قلت إنها من التخصصات التي عليها طلب بمعنى وجود فرص للشركات، فممكن مثال لنشاط ولو صغير. طبعا تحليل الشبكة طبعا مثال، أنا ضربت مثال أوردي في البرزنتيشن. كنت أتكلم عن إنه تقدر أنت اليوم طبعا تحليل الشبكة يعتمد بشكل مباشر على الداتا اللي تجي من النتورك والتغطية اللي تكون موجودة في النتورك وكمية البيانات وكمية الكونكتيفيتي للسيجنال. فبالتالي وجود هذه المؤشرات تعطيك توجه لمعرفة البرفورمانس للنتورك، وتعطيك ايضا معرفة هل فعلا النتورك هذا قاعد يعطيك الخدمات اللي انت قاعد تتوقعها واتس كفرينج ذا اريا ذات اتس نيد، او لا والله فيها عطول معينة. ولذلك الداتا اناليتكس في الاريا هذه جدا مهمة لتقديم يعني افضل انواع الخدمات من ناحيه النتورك ومن ناحيه الكفرج. فشركات الاتصالات بشكل عام تعتمد على النتورك اناليتكس بشكل جدا متوسع، وعندها يعني كامل المقاييس والتولز اللي تساعدها في معرفه تحاليل احصائيه للداتا اللي قاعد تجي من النتوركس، وبذلك يقدروا يوفروا تغطيه اوسع وسيرفيسز اكثر للعملاء. نعم. فعليا انا قاعد اشوف الاسئله اللي في ناس تقول ليش ما شرحت بالعربي. صراحه نحن كنا حاطين في الاعلان عن المحاضره باللغه الانجليزيه، وصراحه يعني احس انه الدخول بين العربي والانجليزي بيأثر على جودة المحتوى. فان شاء الله ما كنت تعبت عليكم وغلبت عليكم ان شاء الله باللغة الانجليزية، واتمنى انه يكون الكلام كان خفيف عليكم باذن الله تعالى. انا منتظر اذا كان في احد عنده اسئله يحطها في الكومنتس على اساس نقدر نجاوب عليها. على العموم انا عارف اليوم يوم الوطني والناس يعني they are willing to go out and celebrate ان شاء الله. اتمنى لكم ان شاء الله يعني يوم وطني جميل. ربي يعيد علينا بامن وامان باذن الله تعالى. ممكن ننتظر الى كمان دقيقتين اذا في احد عنده سؤال. بالعكس يعني we are willing to answer. الله يعطيكم العافيه، وهذا من دواعي سروري صراحه، وان شاء الله تكونوا فعلا استفدتوا مشكورين صراحه. الله يعطيكم العافيه. في تعليق يقول هذا يعني تحليل بيانات الشبكة يعتمد على أجهزة متخصصة مثل المستشعرات. هي فعليا يعني خليني أقول لك، هي فعليا ممكن تكون مستشعرات، وممكن تكون عبارة عن زي ديسكفري تول. يعني هي تقدر ان تو ديسكفر الترافيك اللي يجي على النتورك، وتقدر بناء عليها تحدد البرفورمانس تبعها، وتحدد مدى قابليتها يعني هل هي متقطعه ولا هي كفرج اول ذا تايم، ولا فيها اي يعني اب اند داون سنجل سيجنال. سو ذس از يعني هذه بالضبط الاريا اللي يستخدموها في يعني كتولز. لكن الهدف منها كان ليس الاستشعار من ناحيه التولز بقدر ما هو التحليل الاحصائي للداتا اللي قاعد تجي منها التولز، وهاو they can يعني how can they take out of it based on the يعني these data and make the decision related to the coverage, related to the performance, the technology, all these things يعني. لا بالنسبه للمستشعرات من الادوات اللي تستخدم تحليل البيانات، لا انا عرضت عليكم الان في مجموعه من انا شخصيا كنت من الناس اللي استخدم تابلو. طبعا تابلو يعني يعتبر من الادوات السهله في السهله والممتعه صراحه في الداتا فيجواليزيشن. ليش؟ لانه هو اساسا هو عباره عن داتا ديسكفري، ويقدر انه يفهم مباشره طبيعه الداتا اللي موجوده عندك، ويحولها مباشره الى العرض المناسب للداتا، ويشكلها بشكل يسهل عليك انك تعرضها للمانجمنت او تعرضها للناس، بحيث انك توصل الانسايتس اللي عندك بخصوص هذه الداتا، وايضا انك تسهل عليك ايضا انك تكون هي يعني معك بشكل دايناميك. في حال انك انت غيرت اي او حطيت اي عنصر او كان عندك اي correlation between any data, it can give you the right answer يعني automatically. تابلو كانت بالنسبه لي من التولز الممتعه صراحه يعني بهذا الخصوص. ان شاء الله في المستقبل ممكن نعطي دورات اضافيه بمجال حوكمه الاصول الرقميه. طبعا حوكمه الاصول الرقميه من ال يعني الفانكشنز والدومينز اللي تعتبر الان ترند في عالم الاتصالات، وفي عالم اداره الاصول، وبالذات الاصول ليست فقط الرقميه بل ايضا الاصول التقنيه. واللي اليوم يعني تبغى توصل الى مرحله انك تعرف كيف تقدر تو ماكسمايز البنفيت واليوسج اوت اوف ذيس assets. to be honest, the data predictive and data analytics, it's very important in the asset governance activity. وان شاء الله في المستقبل القريب ان شاء الله ممكن نعطي دورات عن حوكمه الاصول الرقميه او محاضرات عن هذا يعني الصدد ايضا. طيب اذا في اسئله اخرى ممكن تعرضوها الان مباشره، او ممكن نختم حاليا. ممكن ارجع افتح عليكم اللينك للتواصل. ممكن ارفع نطلب من الكنترول يحول شوي على اللينك التواصل اللي ما امداه انه يسوي سكان للسكرين. باذن الله تعالى يعني اذا ارسلتوا لي شيء ان شاء الله على التويتر اي سؤال باذن الله تعالى انا راح احاول اني اجاوب عليه باذن الله تعالى. ايضا على اللينكدين ان شاء الله ما راح اقصر، ويعني انا مستعد ان شاء الله لاي اسئله ان شاء الله في الان او في المستقبل ان شاء الله. ألف شكر لكم جميعا وشكرا على كلامكم. في سؤال بالنسبة للشهادة، إن شاء الله الكنترول بيتواصل معكم بخصوص الشهادات والأمور هذه إن شاء الله. أعتقد إنه في لها تايم فريم واضح، وجود لك للجميع. طيب أشوف إنه ما في أسئلة كثير، فأحب أختم الآن على طول معكم إن شاء الله. أرجع مرة ثانية أقول لكم يعني أنا تشرفت فيكم وتشرفت يعني حضوركم، وبإذن الله تعالى لنا لقاءات أخرى إن شاء الله في المستقبل. وشكرا لكم جميعا يعني على حضوركم، وان شاء الله يعني اكون قدمت اللي اقدر عليه وفعلا استفدتوا مني، والله يعطيكم العافيه جميعا. ثانك يو very much.